Okay, so it's just after 11 o'clock, so I'm going to start. So thank you very much for joining me today to discuss Reed and find out a bit more about our graduate scheme. I'm Savina Baines, I'm the graduate scheme manager here at Reed. I've been at Reed for just over 3 years. I'm actually just about to finish my turn on the graduate scheme. So if you've got any questions, I can talk about it from both being on the scheme, but also representing the scheme as well. So as I said, if you've got any questions, put it in the link and we will I'll answer them at the end of the session. But what we're going to go through today in our conversation really is, first of all, we're going to go through what the graduate scheme is and what it kind of an overview of it. I'm going to talk through what Reed is because it may be a brand that you know of, but there's actually 3 businesses within the Reed group or Reed Global. So we're going to talk you through the differences just in case you don't know, and if you don't, that's absolutely fine. When I joined Reed, I didn't know much about the other 2 areas, and it's quite similar across the area, so it's nothing to be worried about if you're not aware of it at the moment. You should be, you should have some knowledge at the end of our talk today. We'll then also go on to what the graduate scheme means and what the route you could take on the scheme as well. So just to start then, the graduate scheme that we have is all about developing graduates into talented managers and future leaders. We're aware that, if you've gone to university, you probably want to develop your career and, have those opportunities to progress further. So it's a scheme based around that and focused on making sure that you are able to develop what you want to at the end of it as well. So just to talk through the structure of it, it's a 3-year scheme. So in the first year, you would join in what we call an operational role, which I'll discuss in a bit. But it's essentially you join us in an entry-level position. And then you have the chance to rotate across the business if that's what you want to do, and move into different areas. But again, I will talk through that later. So as I said, Reed is made up of 3 companies, so there is opportunities across the Reed group. That's right from when you start through to kind of the end or your 3rd year. So it's completely up to you which route you want to take or which company you want to be in. But what's so great is that just because you join in one particular area doesn't mean you have to stay there. You can move across the areas as well as different roles. Now, our graduate scheme is made up of 3 one-year placements, so you'll be in the role for 12 months. The reason for this is because it allows you a good opportunity to first learn about the role, and we say that it takes about 6 months to fully understand a role and complete it as you would, and then 6 months to work to your best of your ability so that you're in a position to either stay there and continue to develop or move into another area of the business based on the knowledge that you've learned in that position. So that is the reason that it's 12 months. And there is a lot of support and development opportunities throughout. So just to go through those, some of them are in our benefits. So to start with, the starting salary is $23,000 for the year. In London, there is a slight kind of London waiting allowance attached to that, but we are a national business, so we do kind of advertise our national salary. There is also salary increases each year depending on your performance. Now, when we say depending on your performance, we hand quite a lot of this over to you. We ask you to assign yourself some targets that you'd like to achieve so that you're developing in the route that you want to. Of course, we do ask your manager to help you because your first day or your first week on the job, you probably don't know quite the exposure you can have, but your managers will have a lot more experience of having graduates, and they'll be able to give you some good ideas as well. We have the chance to sponsor a professional qualification that you may want to study, and this can be absolutely anything. So we've had quite a lot of people join Reed, interested in HR, and complete a CIPD, and that has been fully funded through Reed. But we've had people complete other ones. So another popular one is a Prince 2, which is the project management qualification, and also a SEMA, which is the marketing qualification. So it is quite flexible, and we can work with you based on what you want to do and how it will help you to progress in the future as well. So we also have the chance for you to be mentored by a senior manager or leader within the business. Now with this, we work completely with you to see what would work best for you. So for example, if you respond better to informal conversations or maybe formal conversations, we'll be able to find a leader that's focused that way or is that way inclined. Or maybe you're looking for to develop your softer skills, so your confidence, your leadership, or you might be looking for someone that helps you network or helps you with your career development. We'll be able to pinpoint the best person for you to talk to, and it's really kind of for you to build that relationship so that you can progress your career further. The other or the final benefit that I'm going to discuss is a future leadership programme, which is run exclusively for graduates on the scheme and helps you to have that ability to learn some insights into how to be a manager or how to be a leader before you maybe step into that position, which just gives you a good kind of step into that direction. Now, the other area of support that I would want to highlight to you is the graduate scheme team, so which is of course my team. We are not just here for you when you're recruiting, or sorry, when we're recruiting or when you're applying for the position. We are a support function throughout the time on the graduate scheme. So your full 3 years, you will also have our support, and afterwards if you also need our support. So it does add that additional kind of area or comfort when it comes to the support, and a lot of graduates do use us. So now that we've done a bit of an overview of the graduate scheme, I want to talk about the Reed Group, just so that you have a bit more knowledge and a bit more kind of background into what Reed is as a company. So to start with, the main area of Reed that most people are aware of is Reed Specialist Recruitment. This is our recruitment agency side of Reed, and we are the UK's #1 recruitment business. We have the longest guarantees in the market, and what that essentially means is we kind of know that we get it right, and if for any reason there's been a issue with a placement that we've made, we will replace it free of charge. So it's kind of a good selling point that we have. We have a database of we had a database of 12 million candidates before COVID. Obviously, COVID has affected people working and has meant that there's more people looking for work at the moment, which has meant that our database has currently increased to 20 million candidates and is still growing. So we have a lot of candidates that are working with us, or we're working with them, sorry, to place them into roles. And we work across 20 different specialist sectors. So what this means is we have 20 areas that we specialise in and have knowledge or in-depth knowledge to build a relationship with a client and place a candidate in that position. Now, what it means for you as candidates potentially moving into the graduate scheme is if you are particularly interested in a particular area, so you could be coming or applying with a HR background, an engineering background, a legal background, and you don't maybe want to go into the sector that your degree lends itself with. It could be that you utilise that knowledge that you've learned into the recruitment of people into that sector, and it could be a great way of you transporting your knowledge, you know, helping people in the sector. So that is something that we do, and we have teams that are dedicated to the 20 sectors that we have. So that's just a bit of an insight into what Reed Specialist Recruitment is. Now, within Reed Specialist Recruitment is Reed Talent Solutions, which is just an additional arm. As you can tell, the branding is slightly different, and the reason for this is because Reed Talent Solutions is less high street driven and more client focused. And what they do is offer bespoke strategies or talent kind of strategies to clients on a larger basis or with larger clients. So as you can see from the logos at the bottom, there are a few of the clients that we work with. So Santander, HSB, NHS, step changes on there, but there is a few more that are kind of well represented as well. So we work with the Royal Mail, and I think especially with the current situation as it is, this isn't the area of Reed which has grown the most, just with the work that we do with the NHS, with Royal Mail, but we've also been doing quite a lot of work with COVID, or in relation to COVID. So there's been lab scientists that have been recruited, you know, swabbers, testers, all that kind of thing. And it's been really good to know that this area of the business is helping with the pandemic. So that is just a very quick overview of Talent Solutions as well. Now, another area that you may be well or have an awareness of is read.co.uk. You may have seen some of our adverts in the past, or just have used the website before. As you can see, again, it's got a very different branding, and each of the different areas of Reed do have a different personality to them. So as read.co.uk is our kind of job site, and we do kind of have an app and things like that, it's our tech focused position, or sorry, area of business, and for that reason it does feel a lot more tech based, and a lot more kind of it's got a bit more of an informal presence. So one thing to note is the other two areas that I will discuss do kind of have a smart business dress code, or just business dress code. Read.co.uk doesn't have a dress code, and whereas the other two areas are national, read.co.uk is based in central London and only has one office. So there is slight differences between the areas of business. But just an overview of what read.co.uk do. So if you haven't used it, it is a job board. So clients use read.co.uk to post jobs for candidates to apply to. So that could be the way that you've used it in the past. Prior to its launch in 1995, it was something that hadn't been done before. Previously, if you wanted to find a job, you'd be looking in a newspaper or looking on or looking in the shop window, and Reed was the first job board and the first business to put this out. It was actually a co-member, we call our kind of employees co-members, that advised James on this, and James is our our chairman and our CEO, and it just shows that, you know, the voices of our employees are really heard, because it's become the third area of our business. As it is kind of tech focused, we have a lot of stats. So these are all before COVID again, but before that we had 7 million job seekers log in every day, and we had, as you can see, a lot of applications per day as well. This has increased as kind of the pandemic has gone on, and we are seeing quite a lot of people finding roles through read.co.uk. Now, obviously, we are going through a pandemic, so I just want to touch on how our area, or this area of the business, has been with the pandemic as well. So the area of read.co.uk or Read Online that has grown the most is the courses section of read.co.uk, where you can purchase a course. There's some free, there's some that you have to purchase, and you complete it in your free time. And obviously with the furlough scheme, people finishing A-levels or degrees earlier in the year than expected, there's been a lot more demand for this and a lot more time for it as well. So it's helped a lot of people utilise their time, but also upskill in areas that they wanted to as well. Now, the final area of Read that I want to talk about is Read in Partnership. This is the area that you may be less aware of. It's definitely the area that I was least aware of when I joined Read. And essentially it is our, or it started as a welfare to work programme and it has diversified slightly. Now, what welfare to work is working with people that are struggling to get into work to make sure that they kind of boost their employability so that they find it a little bit more easy to get into work. Now, previously, this was people with longer term kind of barriers to get into employment, whether it be health, age, family background, social economic status, etc. really. But again, the pandemic has changed the way that Read in Partnership has worked, and we have since launched a contract called JETS, which is Job Entry something beginning with T, I cannot remember it, but it's basically helping those on a short-term basis or have been unemployed on a shorter-term basis to get into work. The reason for this is obviously there was quite a lot of people that were made redundant as a result of the pandemic, and some of those could have been in work for say 25 years, which is a long period of time, and to emerge into the job market with, you know, maybe not feeling as confident with your interview skills because interviews have changed in those 25 years, or not being sure where you placed your CV, let alone if it's up to date. So it's just being able to help those people boost their confidence so that they are able to find work a lot more quickly, and hopefully to kind of slim down the rate of unemployment that we have at the moment. So that is a very, very quick overview of the 3 areas of Read. And if you have any questions of those, we can discuss those. But what we need to talk through next is what those 3 areas of Read mean for you as potential graduate or potential candidates for our graduate scheme. So for your first year options, there is 3 positions that you can enter our graduate scheme in. To start with is a recruitment consultant, which if you think of Read is probably the role that you might associate most with. And essentially what you're working to do is working with clients in the local area to fill their roles on either permanent or temporary basis with candidates in the local area. So that is very much kind of in terms of that, you will need communication skills, you will need resilience, but quite a lot of roles will need resilience, but you also need negotiation skills, as well as kind of your ability to work with people. The next is an employment advisor, which is working with those people that are unemployed to get back into work. And a lot of the work that you're doing is government funded, which means that it's a free service for those that you're working with, which of course just means that it's so much more beneficial, and you know, you can definitely see the difference that you make for those people. And the final is a sales executive, and in that you're working to sell kind of read.co.uk to clients as a source for their candidates. So that is the 3 roles. I just want to kind of highlight some of the differences in terms of locations and you know, bonus structures and things like that. So in terms of Read Online, that is the area that is just based in central London, but the other 2 are based nationally. So that isn't just in England, it is in Scotland as well as Northern Ireland, and Read Specialist Recruitment is also in Wales. In terms of bonuses, it is the sales executive and the recruitment consultant that have kind of a bonus on top of what you on top of your salary, which is obviously discretionary. So that could be something that is kind of another bonus or benefit for you as well. Now, after your first year, it's completely up to you how you want to progress. If you've found your calling and you want to stay in your first year position, then that is great. You are more than welcome to stay there. And unless there's kind of a need for you to move on, we wouldn't encourage you to. And we find around 50% of people stay in their initial role. The reason for that is, they really enjoy it. They could be on the cusp of a promotion and they think, why would I want to move? Why would I want to move on from where I am if I'm going to hit that next point and get a salary boost anyway, potentially? Or some people see it as a very linear route to move into management, and that's the reason why they want to stay. So there is kind of a long or a lengthy reason or list of reasons why people do stay in their first year position. But if you are looking to rotate, and as I said, 50% of people do, you can rotate into different areas of the business. Now, I can't list all of the positions because it differs depending on time of year, business demand, pandemics. So there is a lot of things that can impact the options that we can put out to you. But I just wanted to give you a bit of a flavour for some of the roles that do tend to come up. So starting from the top left corner, GTS stands for Graduate Training Scheme. So you do have the option to work in my team. As I said, I am coming to the end of my time on the graduate scheme. So I joined this team when I was in the scheme, and obviously I'm still in it. So it's a great way to network across all three areas of Reed, and also with senior stakeholders, because you have to meet them kind of to discuss what you're doing with the scheme. But it also depends on how you want to progress. So if you're interested in marketing, then we have people moving into marketing assistant or executive positions. We've had people move into finance positions, HR positions, IT positions, but also we've had people move into executive assistant positions, which is essentially the assistant to directors or senior people within the business. And I think the most interesting executive assistant positions that we've had is for James Reed, who is our chairman, and Alec Reed, who is the founder. Now, Alec Reed isn't involved in kind of the day-to-day operations in terms of the three areas of the business that I've spoken about, but there is a kind of, it's not a secret fourth, but there is a fourth area of the business, which I'm just going to touch on now, which is the Reed Foundation. So the Reed Foundation is our biggest shareholder with 18% kind of stake in our company. And it is a charitable business. So they have launched charitable drives such as Womankind, Ethiopia Aid, which is to help those in Ethiopia, Big Give, which is a match funding, which works to help people in different times. So there's always a huge match funding in at Christmas, where people such as us would give some money, and then people would match what we put in. So it's quite good, and it means that we raise quite a lot of money. A big one to kind of notify you of is Grenfell. So in 2 weeks after Grenfell, the Reed Foundation raised 2 million for that disaster that happened. So it is quite good, and we do help quite a lot of areas. So that is an area that Alex still works on. He's in his 80s now, but he's not giving up, and for some reason he doesn't want to retire. So that's an area that he's working with. And if that is something that we have opportunities in, then you do have the option to rotate into areas within the Reed Foundation as well. But just as I have with all other areas, I'm going to talk through kind of the pandemic and how the way we've worked has changed and how our rotations have changed as well. So before the pandemic, just like many of the organisations you're probably going to speak to or have heard from or maybe applied to, we worked from an office, and we weren't working from home as we all have to at the moment, which means that we were working at a stationary computer, and there wasn't a lot of room for us to kind of carry our work home. And we were in the process of a rollout of kind of having our own laptops that we could plug in, and it's going to be all tech focused and we're going to be really cool, that kind of thing. But then the pandemic happened and it was more of a necessity rather than a luxury. And for that reason, our IT teams hired a lot more graduates into their team, but also the team that did the rollout of our digital platform was quite small when it first started, but has increased massively in size, and I currently have 2 graduates in that team who are doing really well, and the manager recently came to me and said she wants a third. So it's an area that is up and coming. And there's another area which has increased called Keep Britain Working, which is a business that James has launched, or a campaign that James launched, that is kind of runs alongside Reed, and it runs kind of CV workshops and webinars to help those that are struggling with kind of the current situation, or unemployed, or just want to upskill, to help get those skills and make sure that you have people to talk to, and opportunities to make sure that you don't feel alone during this time. And currently, in the last year, I've had 3 graduates move into that position and stay in that role. So we are very adaptive, and as soon as we have a need in the business, managers love graduates because you show such a keen eye and a keen interest. So it's really good, and it allows you to have a lot more opportunities, and a lot more than you probably would even imagine would be a possibility. They always pop up. Now, I just wanted to touch on our alumni, just for you to see kind of what the outcome, or what could happen after those 3 years of being on the scheme. So here are some of the positions that people have moved into. So to start with the top left corner, our previous global managing director of Reed Specialist Recruitment had progressed from his time on the graduate scheme. So he has unfortunately left the business. He left just before the pandemic, but I just wanted to keep it in because it just shows that, yeah, it might take some time. It's not that it was part of his rotations that he moved into that position, because that is as high as you can go in the business. But he progressed over, I think it was 22 years from entering as a recruitment consultant all the way up to that position. And it just shows how far graduates can go within the business. But you can see that there's a lot more kind of job titles listed. So the director of courses, which I did say is the area of Reed Online that has grown the most, has progressed from a sales executive to that position. We've had various account managers that have come from the graduate scheme. People have progressed within finance or HR, or kind of even recruit themselves, so that they've become a business manager and then an operations manager. So it just shows that just because you finished the graduate scheme doesn't mean your development stops there. You can continue going, and we have seen graduates do amazing things. So just before we get onto the questions, I have a couple of success stories that I wanted to discuss with you, just to make it even clearer what the journeys can look like. So this is Kaylee. She joined 10 years ago, and she joined in Coventry as a consultant in Reed Specialist Recruitment. In her second year, she stayed there and was promoted to a senior. She changed her focus slightly. She wasn't working on temporary placements, it was permanent, but she was promoted in that time. And in her third year, she moved into my position on the graduate scheme to end her scheme there. But she didn't finish her journey there. After that, she became the internal recruitment manager, the operations manager for internal recruitment, and now is the head of Reed Talent Acquisition. Now, talent acquisition is just a fancy way of saying internal recruitment, and it's a way that most people or most businesses are turning towards. So that's just a note for you. If you've seen talent acquisition, or someone's got in touch with you and they've got talent acquisition in their job title, they work for internal recruitment. So that's just a bit of a jargon buster for you. And the final one I wanted to touch on was Asim. So he joined 9 years ago. He again joined in, he joined as an employment advisor in Blackpool, and he then moved into a claims analyst for his second year, a management accounts executive in his third, and again, his journey didn't stop there. He became an assistant management accountant, a finance business partner, and is now a commercial business partner for Reed in Partnership. So it just shows how much people can grow and how many, opportunities they've had in that time. It's not that they've gone from one to another. They've had a lot of opportunities to progress further as well. Now, the final thing that I wanted to say just before we move on to questions is if you are interested in finding out a bit more about Reed, but it's lovely to hear from me, but you kind of want to see what people are posting or what our co-members are posting, then search #LifeAtReed. You can do this across most social media, I would say, because I know we have a presence on all, but especially on LinkedIn, because it's one that we all use, and you will see some, interesting posts, I'm sure. There will be some business related ones, but also some that are a bit more kind of show the culture of Reed. I think during the pandemic it's quite hard to show that and show that we are a place that we are a family business, and it does feel like we are a family business, and your team do become your family, and it was hard to show that or kind of feel that at times, but if you scroll far enough, and when I say far enough, it was in April last year, so it is quite a scroll, but you will see us all dressing up for what we called #DressUpFriday, and so maybe if you search that hashtag, maybe it would come up, I can't remember, but we were all dressing up for, it was quite a few weeks in April, just to add a bit of fun into our lives, really, but also to raise money for charity. So you'll see that, but you'll see a lot more things that we've done. So you will have seen things that we've done for Halloween, might be some Pancake Day posts. I'm not really sure what else will be on there, but just to find out a bit more about our culture, I'd definitely recommend giving it a search and seeing what you find. The end of my presentation. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the box and I will answer them now.
Okay. Hi, thanks so much for that, Savina. Okay. I'm Bernie. I'm one of the careers consultants in the careers and employability team. So we've had a couple of questions come in. So if are you ready?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. So with Reed, you've gone through the 3 areas where graduates can join. And obviously, people with any discipline can actually apply as well. But is there within the business, say, students emailed in saying they're doing an economics degree? Would they be better suited for a particular area?
No, I think I don't think there's any area that you would say links. I mean, you might think there's an area that links best, but I wouldn't say that that's because of your discipline. I would say that's because of your personality. So, for example, the employment advisor position, that is focused on, there isn't that bonus attached to it, but it is incredibly rewarding. So maybe if you're more of a kind of incentive-driven person, love targets, competitive, that might not be the position for you. But if you had an economics degree, that wouldn't mean that you wouldn't be suited for it, because you might have an empathic side. You might just want to help people. There's a lot of other skills that you have yourself that would make you the best person. But then again, with the other positions, you might come from a degree that you might not think is shows that you're competitive. So I mean, I don't know one off the top of my head, but I'm just going to pick English. You wouldn't think, oh, English, that's a recruitment consultant, but it is. You have to meet deadlines, and you might be someone that's incredibly on your deadlines and striving to have the best mark possible, and that is your competitive side, and that's kind of what you need as a recruiter. You need to have that drive within you, and the same with the sales executive. That's obviously a lot more kind of sales driven, a bit more target driven, but again, you just need that competitive nature. So it's not necessarily the degree discipline, but your own personality, and what I'd say is there's never a degree that links you to recruitment. I think HR is possibly the most similar, but even then, that doesn't give you kind of everything you need to be a recruiter. It's all on the job, and you learn on the job. So the answer to that is no, there isn't.
Okay, that's great, thank you. Now we've had the same question by a few students. Could you give an overview, please, at what the application process is?
Yes, of course. I should have included that before. I'm so sorry. So in terms of our application process, there is first of all a application form, which it just asks you basically whether you've got a 2-1 or higher, because we do require you to have a 2-1 for the graduate scheme, but then also just asks you why you think you're suitable for the position. There is a 150 word minimum for that, but you know, in that I would advise that you talk through kind of your own experience, maybe do some research and read why it's of interest for you, but also talk about why I know that's actually everything it was meant to be, why interest is of read is of interest to you, reads some background into Read and your experience. So yeah, that's your application form. After that, there is online assessments. There's 2. One is a verbal reasoning and one is a deductive reasoning. Now, what I'd say for those and any psychometric testing that you complete is practice. I think it's once you get into the habit of doing them, I think they'll become a little bit easier, but it's definitely worth practicing. And the way to do that, the majority of the tests will probably have a link or a practice link for you to click on, but I wouldn't say just look at that. Google kind of, if you know what the test is, Google it. So for example, when I did it, I Googled verbal reasoning test, and you know, there was about 3 that came up. They weren't all the kind of testing site that we use ourselves at Read, but it doesn't matter. It's almost like, I mean, going back to A levels, you might be sitting in AQA paper, but you know, Edexcel might have the same sort of questions, maybe just a slightly different format. It's kind of a similar thing, so it's worth doing. And the more practice you have, the more used to the questions you are and the used to the format, and also the time that there is to complete them. They are normally timed, so you get used to completing them within that time limit. So that is the next stage. Then there is a telephone interview with myself or a member of my team, where we'll find out a bit more about you, your background, and go through some competency-based questions. We have a role play, which allows you to have experience of what the role would include. So it could be talking to a candidate in the position, it could be talking to a client, but it gives you a bit of an insight into what you would be doing in that position. And then to finish it off, there is a couple more interviews. I know it is incredibly long, but we do fit it around your availability. So those final 2 interviews is one with a manager who would hopefully become your future manager, and one with a director who is kind of who looks at you as kind of an applicant for a 3-year process, and is kind of, that's kind of the difference. The manager will look at you as a person for that role, whereas the director will look at you as someone for 3 years. As I said, it is a lengthier process, but we do fit it around your availability. So if, for example, you have a lot of deadlines coming up in May, I will ask you that, and you know, I will never take offence if you say, look, I don't know why you're calling me today. I've got loads of kind of exams coming up. Can I call you in 2 weeks' time? That's absolutely fine. I know that is kind of, it does get to a busier point, and we will work around your availability.
That's great. Fana, thank you. That's a really good overview as well. And just to go back just on the psychometric test, because I know you said, you know, the practice, it really, really is important. But just to remind students that in Keele, they've got access to Keele Careers Online, where you can take practice tests as well. So as well as, you know, you're saying that there's links for practice tests, that students can also practice those tests as well on Keele Careers Online. Can I just ask a question with regards to, you know, what you said about the three areas and the sort of options within those? Is there anything, because students usually come and say, you know, is there you know, a formula to get the skills that you're looking for or specific work experience, etc. And you touched on some of them because you said, you know, you might find that you're competitive, etc. But are there specific things that you do look for in a candidate?
I'd say maybe in our telephone interview, that's probably the time that we look for them in particular. So, for example, in that we look for resilience, because that is a skill that you need in anything, but you utilise it in, you know, your degree. I mean, everyone has shown resilience through the pandemic, just to even get through it. So, you know, it's something that we definitely have, and it's just kind of in a competency-based interview getting that across. But resilience is a skill that we definitely look for. Obviously communication, all of those roles you will be working with people, and you will have to talk to them and engage with them in some kind of level. So communication is also important. But also we are obviously looking for leadership, or future leaders. So leadership is a skill that we look for, but it's not necessarily being the manager of a cafe or retail role that you've had. It could just be, you know, you've worked in a project as part of your group assignment at university and you took the leadership position. It could be that you kind of delegated tasks, it could be that you booked the meetings, it could be that you know, had to have maybe a bit more of a difficult conversation with someone and say, look, we need you to pull your weight. I mean, that happens in every group assignment, so I'm sure that someone's definitely got experience of that. So even that shows your ability to step up into a leadership position. So it doesn't need to be kind of work experience in any of the positions. It just needs to be transferable skills, and all of the skills we look for you definitely can have just from your university experience.
Brilliant, thank you. And that's really good to remind students, because I know some of them are worried as well at the moment because of the pandemic that they're not getting the work experience that you know, that the opportunities are there. So but as you say, it's really good to remember that the skills just from the degree alone are there.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you for that. Now, I've had a question for you, Safina. That's what's been your favourite part of the grad scheme? If you've got one, you might have lots.
Okay. I'm gonna try think of one. I think my favourite part, I mean, mine's subjective because of the role that I do, but because I have access to all the graduates that are applying for the position, it's making that difference and seeing the new talent that come in to read. But I think because of the position I'm in, is seeing how far they progress as well. And I know that's not my personal experience, so I'll give you another one afterwards. But I think that, as for me in this position, is something that I love. And just to add, I mean, I've said about competitiveness, and that's just because recruiters and people within this sector are just known to be competitive. And I think my favourite part will go into that. But we publish just within the graduate scheme, it's only the graduates that see it, but league tables of kind of how people are doing each month, which is such a funny tool for people that are kind of outside the graduate scheme, because you can just see the competition and the messages that I get that are like, oh, I'm almost there, or haha, I beat that person. And it's just, you know, it's seeing how people are progressing, and, you know, just things like having a league table. Yeah, it goes into your competitive side, but it also shows your true ability, and really allows managers to see that too, which is so important, especially when, you know, you're so new into the business. So that's something that I love. But in terms of my personal experience, it is probably feeding into the competitive side. So we have done kind of sales days and kind of competitions, and I know that we did one when I was in my first year and it was Easter time, and there was really random things that we had to do. So, you know, some were job related, some were to decorate an egg, just a boiled egg at home, and I thought, you know what, I'm completely competitive. I'm the most competitive person you meet. So I made mine look like James Reed, because I thought, you know, I'm bound to win with that. And there were some other things that we had to do. And I was actually, I was quite low down at the beginning of it, but this shows just how competitive we are as grads. I ended up being the winner of the competition, and I got an Easter egg, which obviously is such a small prize, but you know, I just love getting my Easter egg, and so that was something that was really fun. But also the dress up Friday that we did, that was so fun, because you know, you didn't know what people were going to dress up as, and also the weird costumes that people have at home is so strange, because there's people dressing up as hot dogs or, you know, shrimp, and why did you have that costume anyway? We're in a pandemic, they didn't buy them. And so it was seeing that, and seeing people post those on LinkedIn, and seeing that each Friday, that was quite fun as well.
That sounds fun. That does. I've got no random costumes, so I can tell you that. So as you say, though, why would you have a hot dog at home? We've just had a question in again to say, what university did you go to and what did you study?
Yeah, so I went to Loughborough University and I studied psychology. I am someone that didn't know what they wanted to do when they left university. And the funniest thing is, I actually said that I didn't want to go into recruitment, which has just worked out hilarious, because not only am I in recruitment, but I also recruit for a graduate scheme for a recruitment company. So it's just, you know, the funniest thing ever. But yeah, I went to Loughborough. I did my 3 years. I am someone who is speaking from experience when they say you don't need work experience to necessarily get a job. It is transferable skills, because I didn't have a job while I worked at university. And that's something that my manager actually said. He said, didn't you want a job? And I said, no, because I could get so much from university. I was on societies, and I was a course representative, and there's so many skills that you learn from those things. I mean, talking to a lecturer and saying, look, this is what our issues are as a student cohort, is the most daunting thing to do when you're in your second or third year, because that's the times that I was my course representative. But it means that you build up your confidence and your leadership skills as well. And to be honest, I don't know if I would have built them up as much if I was in a, you know, retail role or, you know, had a hospitality based position. So for me personally, that gave me the confidence, and I know that confidence was a skill I needed to boost, and the things that I had access to at university really helped me with that. So if there is anyone sitting there thinking, I haven't got the work experience that I was hoping for, or an internship, then I'd say don't worry, because neither did I, and I did fine.
Oh, that's so reassuring. That's brilliant, actually, to sort of know. And like you say, just being involved in things just within your university, society, student voice rep, etc., just gives you so many of those transferable skills, as you said. Just last question. I'm conscious we're sort of getting towards the end. Yeah. But we know you've touched on the examples of, you know, when you finish the 3 years on the graduate schemes, what options are available to you. Somebody's just asked, can you stay on at Reed, or do you leave or go somewhere else?
Oh, no. We encourage you to stay. So if you want to stay, 100% we want you to stay. There is, I mean, since I've been in this position, I think it's only one person that has left, and I've had three intakes that have left the position, left the graduate scheme, and the majority of them have stayed in the business. So it is definitely that we want you to stay in the business. It's about, these 3 years is about giving you the exposure and developing you and giving you that opportunity, giving you additional opportunities that you might not have if you didn't join our scheme. And I think that's something that's really important. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know the difference between an entry-level position and a graduate scheme when you come out of university. Again, I didn't, and I'm talking from experience. And I actually joined Reed not on the graduate scheme to start with, and then joined the graduate scheme after. And I can tell you from my own experience, being on the graduate scheme, I was fine not on the graduate scheme. So if that's not something that you want to do, or it's not something that you're thinking about doing at the moment, that's fine. I still got support and everything. I still have my manager, but being on the graduate scheme gave me the additional kind of blanket almost. I had the graduate scheme team when I wasn't part of it. I have a mentor. You have a lot more opportunities to be aware of the rotation, and they are a bit more kind of aware of kind of your background and how you're coming into that position. So it is kind of, it's that entry level point, and we've had some great people move into fantastic positions and do amazing things just from being on the graduate scheme. That's not to say that only people on the graduate scheme do that, but we have had some amazing people that come through, and I've just shown you a couple of people on that slide that have gone on to kind of be the head of this or a partner, but we've had people that have just stayed in recruitment and have moved into kind of area managers where they look after quite a large area, or have moved into account directors where they kind of manage really large accounts that Reed work with. So there's such a big difference you can make, and it all starts, or for them it's all started with the graduate scheme.
That's great, thank you. And so very much the message is, after 3 years you want people to stay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, there's no more questions at the moment, so I just want to say a massive thank you. That was really interesting, really informative. So thanks for coming along to speak to us today. And I'm just sort of blown away by, like you say, the messages as well out there from yourself with regards to your own experience. So that's been really, really useful. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me. What I'm going to do is just post in the kind of question area our website. So if you do have any questions, first of all, you can have a look on our website, but also my email address is on there. So you can give me an email if anyone has any questions, or find me on LinkedIn and message me on there. But if there is anyone that's interested in Reed, I look forward to speaking to you soon.